TJWS Radio Network, featuring Jimmy Drop D. Williams and the Jimmy Williams Show.
News, talk, and music, get down. TJWS Radio, always the best in town. You keep on listening, keep on listening. Got to keep on listening, keep on listening.
The best in news, talk, and music, only on TJWS Radio.
News, talk, and music, get down. TJWS Radio, always the best in town.
Has your home or property been damaged by any of the recent storms, such as water damage or damage from lightning? Then you may need a lawyer. Has your home been damaged due to an accident where items were dropped, cracked your tile floor, or caused other damage to your tile flooring? Then you may need a lawyer. Has your business been burglarized and the insurance company refused to pay to replace the stolen items or otherwise deny your claim? You may need a lawyer. Has your insurance company denied your long or short-term disability claim? You may need a lawyer. Has your home been damaged due to sinkhole activity, or has your home been damaged due to a fire or smoke loss? Has the insurance company denied your claim or offered an amount insufficient to make the necessary repairs? You may need a lawyer. If you need a lawyer, call Anthony Smith Law at 1-866-520-4529. At Anthony Smith Law, they represent clients who have disputes with their own insurance company. If your insurance company denies your claim, call Anthony Smith Law. Their consultation is free, and they never get paid unless you do. Remember, call 1-866-520-4529 to discuss your insurance rights. Anthony Smith Law offices, located in Orlando.
Empire Graphics and Printing, the #1 graphics and printing company in Florida. Club flyers, mixtape covers, posters, they do it all. Reach them at 407-404-0509.
Hollywood Beauty Academy. Invest in your future. Start a profitable career in the beauty field. For a low tuition, you can become a nail tech, a skincare technician, a cosmetologist, or makeup artist, or learn eyelash extension. Earn good money. The tuition is affordable for everyone. We can install payments to fit your budget and flexible schedules to fit your own schedule. Call us at 407-292-6727 or come in and visit us at 6112 Silver Star Road, Orlando, Florida 32808. We are open from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Hollywood Beauty Academy. Invest in your future.
Auto Sound Factory, specializing in car stereo, car security, custom installations, auto detailing, neon ground glow, custom speaker enclosures, computer design systems, auto accessories. You can visit them at 1234 29th Street, Orlando, Florida 32805, or call them 407-246-0585. Auto Sound Factory. Auto Sound.
Hello world, this is your hostess that is the mostest, Miss Ovachi, coming to tell you about an event we have coming up March 22nd at the Caribbean Hut. This event is produced by and presented by TJWS Radio and Ovachi Enterprises. Again, it will take place at the Caribbean Hut, 2141 West Colonial Drive, Orlando, Florida 32808. The entrance is only $5, so don't meet me there, beat me there. Again, this event is an entertainment explosion, an explosion of entertainment. Taking place March 22nd, presented by TJWS Radio and Ovachi Enterprises. See you there.
Look, this race comes down to three choices. I've talked to each one of these candidates. I've listened to each one of them. Less than 3 weeks ago, as the president of the Spring Lake Homeowners Association, we hosted a District 5 candidate forum. From all accounts, for all the persons that were there, it was a fair event. There was no bias there. And after that conversation, I was really impressed with Juan. He has a vision for this district. He understands the challenges that face our city, and he's the most qualified in the race. And being a father of 2 children, I really respect the fact that we have a father, a husband in this race. I think it's important when we talk about the next generation of leaders, where are they coming from? We need more fathers. We need more men. We need more business leaders. There's a lot of things that will be changing this next generation here in Orlando. We got an aging population, a Latino population that's exploding. Who's going to best serve us over the next few years? And again, we got three choices to make. And I think Juan LYNUM is the most qualified of those candidates. So I'll keep it short. I'll let Juan do most of the engagement with the audience, but I wanted to let you know from a personal standpoint that this isn't something that is lightly here. This is going to be a fundamental for us moving forward. So without any further ado, I want to welcome my friend and your next commissioner for District 5, Mr. Juan LYNUM.
Thank you, Jibril, and thank you all for coming out today. Now I'm going to stay down this way, so it's going to be a discussion, so I can be close to you all, and so we can share with one another. As Jibril shared, he is, or maybe he didn't share, he is my best friend's little brother. So Jibril has been there the entire way, pretty much grew up in his house right down the street, 545 Burn Drive, followed us to, didn't quite make it to high school because you're 5 years behind us, but he made it to college at FAMU, was actually my roommate for a little while up in Tallahassee. When we were about to graduate, he was just arriving on campus and he lived with us. So it's been great to watch the real grow up and consider to the man, the father, and the husband that he is today. But my name, as Jibril already said, is Edward Juan LYNUM. I'm a candidate for Orlando City Commissioner, District 5. And I thought it would be great to have this discussion, this community discussion today, not just with the campaign team, but with everyone who wanted to be a part of this discussion. So I appreciate all of you coming out, because this is a moment for me to share what's on my mind, a little bit about my background, about me, and to give you all the opportunity to discuss concerns and issues you may have, or any questions you may have. So it's not necessarily for a Q&A, but it's for a discussion that I hope that all of us will engage into in just a few minutes. So I'm going to start this off by just talking about myself and my vision, where I come from, and then I'll transition us into that discussion. But I was born and raised here in Orlando, lived in Orlando, called Orlando home my entire life. I went to Rock Lake Elementary School, Barbary Lee Middle School, Jones High School, Florida A&M University. We're also in honor of pledging fraternity and Ladies High Pride. And I see a couple of my fraternity brothers who gave our prayer this morning was for Drake, and my friend and frat brother, Senator Garrett Siflin, is here. And I'm not sure if I see any other. Oh, and my friend and frat brother in the back, Carter Burns. From FAMU, I went to FAMU and thought I wanted to be an astronaut, and I changed my major from mechanical engineering to business because FAMU has such a dynamic business school, and it really prepared me to be the man that I am today. I got 2 of the top internships, one with IBM and another one with Bristol Myers Squibb, and Bristol Myers Squibb hired me after graduation and moved to Frederick, Maryland, where I stayed there for about a year as a pharmaceutical sales rep. My territory covered a lot of Maryland, parts of West Virginia, as well as parts of Virginia. I did a lot of traveling in a 3-state area, $3 million sales goal. From there, I did pretty good at sales, and I was promoted just within 1 year of being out in the field to an associate region sales manager for the New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia region. So I went from having a $3 million sales goal in the field to now a $300 million sales goal, supporting my region vice president and 120 field representatives and 10 district managers across those 5 states. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about leadership at that time. My boss at the time said, and I went by EJ, my initials back then, and we had to read a book about management and coaching others. At the time I was so young, I was 24 years old, and there was some concern about how others in the field, all of which were older than me, would receive someone who was so young now in a position of leadership to also train and develop them to be great salespeople. I learned that leadership from my regional vice president is about getting others who don't necessarily work for you, who don't report to you, to do things for you, to work together to make you successful. That's what leadership is about, in part. It's getting others to believe in you, your vision, your dream. And that's what I want to bring to this campaign. Leadership, where hopefully you all will buy into the vision and support me in this quest to be the next City Commissioner of District 5. For the past 8 years, I've practiced as a trial attorney and appellate attorney. Many of you may know there was a time back when I graduated from FAMU College of Law in 2005. I became the president and CEO of the African American Chamber of Commerce. Actually, before that, I served on several boards. I was appointed to the Mayor's Paramore Task Force back in 2003. Paul Stevens, Paul served on that board with me, and I think the mayor is starting to make some phone calls and want to reconvene the Paramore Task Force because, of course, we've got a lot going on. We'll talk about that in just a second. Mayor's Paramore Task Force, I served on their board of zoning adjustment for the county and served on their community development advisory board. Served on the Orlando Regional Chamber of Commerce board, on the Community Leadership Council for the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families. So I've been entrenched in this community for quite a long time. I know it very well. Lived here my whole life, as I've already shared. In 2006, when I graduated from law school, at that time, Homer Hardage had turned out and that seat had become open. And I ran for Orange County Commission District 6. And I see one of those candidates here today, Victoria Siplin. Thank you for coming out. I ran unsuccessfully against then Commissioner Tiffany Moore Russell, as well as our state representative Bruce Antonis in that race. And to this day, I'm friends with both of them. That was a really good campaign. We focused on the issues. We didn't focus so much on distinguishing from each other, but about our positions and what we're running for, and that's how I'm running this campaign 8 years later for Orlando City Commissioner District 5. You may recall from 2012, I started to run for state representative, but at the same time, I had a new wife, a new little baby girl, and decided that perhaps 2012 wasn't my time to run for state representative. I needed to put my family first. And I'm glad I did that because, as they say, as you all know as parents, children do grow up very quickly. And I don't get to spend as much time with my family now. So that time, I'm glad I did not pursue that in 2012 so I could bond with my child and build my family. Well, let's fast forward to this race. As we know, our city commissioner, Daisy LYNUM, who is here today, wave and say hello, Mom. Commissioner LYNUM was ready to go another 4 years, as you all know. She loves this community. She's fought very hard for this community the past 16 years. She's accomplished more in the past 16 years than probably all the other communities put together accomplished for their districts in the past 16 years. She's accomplished extraordinary things. I would not be a lawyer having graduated from the FAMU College of Law in this community of Paramore if it were not for Commissioner Daisy LYNUM. There wouldn't be a NAT4 community school for the children in this community if it were not for Commissioner LYNUM. There wouldn't be these new programs at Jones High, the Medical Careers Partnership Program, if it were not for Commissioner LYNUM. The print program and the $1.2 billion that was spent, that is still being spent on building our venues, over 40% of that contract money would not have gone to women and minorities if it were not for the advocacy and leadership of Commissioner Daisy LYNUM. So, as you all know, part of my campaign theme is continuing that legacy of leadership, because it's leadership that we have not seen in this town, ever. And it deserves, and we need to sustain that leadership. But I know on the campaign trail, folks say, well, your mother's retiring. What are you going to do? What are your ideas? And I have some big and bold ideas. one of them, other than sustaining what Commissioner LYNUM has done, those programs that I just talked about. And that's a lot. Just that alone is a lot. Those are some big shoes to fill. But as we know, we're in the technology age. Things are changing. You know, your phone, this device right here, does things that, you know, who would have thought the things we can do on this phone? GPS, you can look at a map, synchronize things, take pictures, awesome photos. You know, even my little 2-year-old has an iPad where she can manage it on her own and do things. So the question, as far as how are we going to be competitive and ahead of the curve, this city and our community in the future, and that's with technology. I'm talking about increasing our broadband infrastructure, putting higher broadband fiber optic cables underground. And speaking with city staff recently, that is something that we are doing some of. The Creative Village, that infrastructure is there. I just learned that, you know, we see that Church Street has been torn up and a lot of infrastructure is going in down there. And part of that is increasing the bandwidth, fiber optic cables going under there so that they can do some high-tech stuff that they're able to access into those fiber optic cables. I'm going to start with talking about, as far as, well, let's talk about technology some more. Some of my ideas with respect to connecting neighborhood associations. All of us are living in neighborhoods. We have homes, and we have neighborhood associations. One of the things I've learned by going to neighborhood association meetings is they really want their commissioner to be accessible to them. As we know, commissioners and mayor, they have very busy lives. Many people want them in many places at the same time. With technology, as we know, you know, oftentimes when I'm here in Orlando, I Skype with my wife and my daughter, you know, to say goodnight to them. Because I can't be there. When a commissioner or mayor or some kind of city official can't be at perhaps a neighborhood association meeting that's being held at a city community center, we should have the capabilities of television and video conferencing. So if your elected official can't be there, we should have those capabilities right there at the community center. Further, for children who may be low income and may not have internet access at home, it is not that expensive to equip each and every one of our community centers with free Wi-Fi. Not just inside, but outside at the park. If a little kid, you know, wants to get out, you know, laptops can cost as little as $150. Having that type of resource could turn that little low child coming in a low-income community to a genius because of what they're able to access just because they can get free internet. That's something I want to do. Last night at a homeowners association meeting, I shared how we can use technology also with crime prevention. I see we have a representative here also from the Orlando Police Department. And just kind of thinking, you know, the possibilities. Some folks, as we know, don't like reporting crimes. It's something about calling 911 or pushing in those 7 numbers for the non-emergency number. Well, I think we can have an application, an OPD app maybe on our phone, where if you see a crime, you can just punch it in, right then and there. We know phones have GPS locators. The OPD, someone whoever's at the call center, whoever knows where it's coming from, can see what's going on, then perhaps some burglar's running down the street and somebody else on their app, their GPS location, and OPD can find out where that person is running. You can track them real time with just a simple application. This isn't, you know, serious programming stuff. This is stuff that's already out there in commercial use, but it's being used at corporations, and we are using it for individual purposes. Now, we need to kind of connect the two and get in the middle into our community, our neighborhoods, using technology to enhance our quality of life. Creative Village, since we're on technology. Where the old Amway Arena used to be. That's what I'm talking about. That's called Creative Village. It's over 5 acres. How many acres? That's a lot of acres over there. It's maybe 15 acres. It's a lot of space over there. And as we've been reading, We don't really know what's going to come first there. What we do know is that the city wants a high-tech company based there first, before any schools come, before any hotels, before any other type of retail or anything else comes there. The city, because the city owns that land, wants a high-tech company to come in there to be the anchor right there. And that makes a lot of sense, because once you bring in a business, you bring in jobs, and some folks are saying, well, LYNUM was talking about all these high-tech jobs are going to, you have to be so educated to get those jobs. And I have to remind some folks, I've never worked in a corporation. I come from corporate America, where we didn't have college-educated folks doing certain jobs, and literally half the rest of the company are administrative assistants, support staff, folks who don't necessarily have college degrees. Jobs are jobs. When you bring in a company, it covers from the person who got their GED can get a job all the way to someone who may have a PhD. Okay? So jobs are jobs when we talk about bringing in corporations. But Creative Village, since there isn't a solid plan for it right now, that means there's a lot of opportunity for leadership and guidance from whoever the next commissioner is going to be, to go out there and help sell to companies why they should consider Orlando, Creative Village, as their destination, as their corporate home. As well, because the city owns that land, we can also say for other folks, once we get that business there and the hotels start showing interest, or the Orange County Public School System start showing an interest in putting a school there, and when that time comes, or other housing, we can make sure that the community participates in what's going on there. We can ensure that they're going to share the same values as the city as far as diversity in their hiring and their activities that they do with the community. We can ensure that. So that's Creative Village. I've been fortunate to be supported by the Orlando Magic. They brought me in and briefed me on their big plans on what they plan on doing right across from our new arena. As you may or may not know, they're going to take over that whole block where the current Orlando Police Department is. And that's going to be a $200 million project. $200 million project. Now, the Orlando Magic is a company with just 150 employees, but they're coming in with a $150 million project in this community. It's going to bring in more jobs to this community. It's going to, and I was actually expecting someone perhaps from the Magic to be here this evening, but there's going to be a lot of things going on with that. Use the blueprint. So with that $200 million project, there are going to be a lot of minority contractors as part of that. More jobs. So we're just keeping that ball rolling. With what we have just in Paramore alone, I know that District 5 is a lot more than Paramore. I'm starting with Paramore, we'll start working our way around District 5. There's a lot of opportunity. There are going to be thousands and thousands of jobs coming to Paramore. It's going to happen. The land is there. It's going to happen. Things are in progress. There's been a lot of concern about the venues and money going to venues when it should be going to our neighborhoods. It should be going to our streets. Is the concern of many residents. And I can agree with you. I would have preferred for $1.2 billion to go into our neighborhoods, to our community centers, and doing some of the things that I've already talked about. But that's done. That's nothing that me or any of the candidates in this race can do to change that. Screaming opposition or crying foul at this point is not the way this community needs to go. We need to talk about this wave that's already hitting and how we're going to ride the wave versus stand on the sidelines and cry about the wave. There's a wave of opportunity coming. Development is going to continue to happen around those sites, around the new arena, around this new soccer stadium, around the Citrus Bowl. Things are going to start happening. They can happen. So I'm hopeful that I'm able to share with the community how we can take advantage of that. Because it's going to mean more businesses. More businesses around these venues mean more people with jobs. close by our own community versus having to drive and commute to far places. There are going to be a lot of more jobs right here in our community. Looking at now other areas, of course we go out to, I think I see some folks here from the Willows. I'm sure we'll some screen coming in somewhere. Oh, right there. Okay, there you go. Okay. District 5, we'll kind of talk about the boundaries of District 5. District 5 pretty much starts along Roslyn. Roslyn, and goes west all the way out towards, as far as the north end, it's the Willows. As far as the westernmost end, it's Kirkman, Kirkman and the Metro West area over there. Then we come on in down Raleigh Street. We've got Vista Lago, the Timberleaf area through there, and Malibu Groves. Coming on in back towards downtown, parts of Orange Center. It's in District 5, and coming back into the Paramore area to downtown. A lot of the big buildings we see downtown are in District 5. So we have two really kind of different communities in District 5. We have downtown and those apartments, you know, to get in there, you're going to have to be able to get a loan, most likely for at least $250,000 on up. As we know, for the most part, the middle-income homes in District 5 aren't worth quite that much. So we have two different types of kind of communities. Those who are able to get those kind of loans and move into these high-end apartments downtown, and many of us in the neighborhood who, you know, with the changes in the laws, are having problems accessing capital, even trying to pull equity out of our own homes to build up our own homes is another issue. It's not necessarily a city of Orlando issue, but it's one of those issues where you're going to want your leader to be a part of with other groups who are focusing on those type of issues, access to capital. What we've seen over the years also is that a lot of development, affordable housing, of course, is very important to many people. And I meant to bring my paperwork from the Paramore Task Force, findings in 2003 in conclusion. Because what we see happening, I think many of us may have forgotten, we had a lot of public hearings in 2003, over 10 years ago, on how we wanted this community, how we wanted Paramore, or want Paramore to look like. And going back through those things with Paul just yesterday, what we see happening now is pretty much what we talked about over 10 years ago. As far as beautification, as far as ideas with fighting crime, as far as turning, not necessarily turning Paramore from a low-income community to a middle-class community, but turning it from a low-income community to a mixed-income community. Okay? So that's what's been happening. City View was probably one of the first projects in Paramore to start turning this particular part of the community to a mixed-income community. Looking at the plans, 40% of those units were supposed to be for affordable housing. I don't believe it ended up with 40%. Okay, 40% is still affordable housing. Over there. There's concern about displacement. I'm going to get into some of the stuff on gentrification in a second. I'm going to ask a question, see if we can get that discussion going, and see what this group perceives about, you know, this concept of gentrification. But one thing that I see and observe is that as the city builds and provides economic development, sure, there is some displacement. Let's not pretend like it's not happening. There are some low-income housing that's being displaced, and we know as part of the soccer stadium that the city is even willing to eminent domain of church. But part of the plan is to turn that into higher density. So the same piece of property where you may have had, say, 4 housing units, by going higher and make it more denser, we can accommodate not just 4 families, but maybe we can accommodate 25 families by using the same space a lot smarter. So those low-income residents can stay where they are They may have to move out a little bit as we revitalize and redevelop. But what we know is that with that redevelopment, we bring in more mixed income, which is better for the community, because we know that reduces crime. It also allows for more amenities to come in. So if we continue to do this in Paramore, folks ask, well, we don't have a supermarket in Paramore, or a real supermarket. Granted, we have over there next to Callahan's at the Sunlight. And I still go there when I need to get something. But, we can do better than that. And we will in the future once we continue on this path of development and bringing people back and making people excited about living in the urban corridor. Because it is cool to live in this urban corridor. I've lived in a lot of major cities, not just in the United States, but abroad. And folks like living around, especially in Europe, they love living around that soccer stadium. Soccer is big. So, the most expensive, or I should say most expensive, but some of the most sought after apartments are those that are close to those types of amenities people can walk to. I don't want to, I think I'm probably going on for 10 minutes already, and I wanted to start opening this up to some discussion, because this is a discussion, and I want to hear from you all what's on your mind. I think I talked about economic development, I talked about technology, I talked about housing, I talked about how the Paramore Task Force, even 10 years ago, suggested a lot of the things that are happening today, and those things are happening. Talked about how we can use technology to reduce crime. Now I want to hear from you all. What's on your mind? Because this is a discussion. I don't know it all. I'm running for city commissioner, not just to be a leader on some of the things that are going on in our community, but also because I want to listen, hear what's going on, and make sure that you all, as the residents of District 5, are taken care of. Because we need strong leadership. We didn't get to where we are today without strong leadership. We're going to continue to need strong leadership. And strong leaders listen to the community. So that's what this is about. This is about a discussion. It's not, it wasn't billed as a Q&A. You ask questions and I got the answers. This is about us talking. So I'm going to give, let's see, where's Russell, this microphone, wired mic. And I see some even former candidates for Orlando City Commission that are here. Ms. Gelser, thank you for coming. Do you have anything you want to share? Part of this discussion. I see you on TV quite a bit. You have certain concerns.
Me? She don't live in the district. I don't live in the district, but I still have business in the district with my mom. My main concern is when you talk about displacement. Do I really need this? I really don't. I'm concerned of the past history with the city when it comes to displacement. When it comes to purchasing property in the Paramore community from homeowners, they're not getting the value for a vacant lot. $15,700 is not a lot of money for a home. It's the land. So I ask you, I plead with you, if they're going to be displaced, if you can pay the 4-time value of the soccer stadium land, can you look to do the same for those people who are being displaced? Because that's the concern for me and a whole lot of people. We've been here waiting, but if you're going to give me $15,000, that is nothing to replace a home that you paid more for, or my business. That will hurt me. And so the displacement will put me in debt, and I will lose out.
Okay. Let's talk about that. That's a good point. That's what we're here to talk about. And I won't have so much work right here. So I understand your point, Ms. Gelser. That is, you're saying if when the city goes in and to say the soccer stadium, for example, those folks who own the land, they get 4 times the value. Is what you're saying. Versus
they did.
Maybe an absentee person who owns say a 1/4 acre lot that may only get pretty much value. Is what you're saying for the property. Now, do you see that happening with actual residents, people who own the property, or is that happening with perhaps people who don't necessarily live here who are absent?
Yeah,
Because I think you would agree that most of the residents in Paramore don't own the property that they live in. They're leasing with their tenants.
the 10% of the 3 homes that I'm speaking about, they own their property. And so I can only speak for them. I'm not talking about the absentee landlord. I'm talking about people who've invested, purchased, owned. And I can give you those addresses. I can provide you those addresses, because one of them actually ended up moving behind my mom's house on Polk Street, and she ended up having at 80 to get a mortgage. So I can only speak about those 3, and I'm very concerned if that practice continues, what's going to happen to those who do own their property?
I agree. That is the practice. I'm not, part of the people negotiating or cutting the checks. I read what's in the Sentinel as far as what's happening, like most of us. And I agree. It sounds like that's an issue of fairness that you're raising. That when it comes to city venues, they're willing to go the extra mile and do 4 times as much. But when it comes from the local resident, it sounds like you're saying that they're not going to go 4 times. They're going to give you just what you deserve. No, I think that's a legitimate. That's really what's happening. That one, I would not approve of anything like that. We as mostly people of color in here, we know about disparities. We know about being not getting our fair shake. Even women, gender policies. Women still make less per dollar than men do. Minorities still make less than their other counterparts, and I can just kind of go on and on about the disparities. Folks in the LGBT community, have their disparities as far as how they're treated. So I respect that, and that's not something I would support to be part of this Commission of District 5. So we're continuing the discussion. Talked about displacement and some of the issues with displacement and how the city has proceeded with taking over property in perhaps an unfair way. Are there any other stories that anyone wants to share, concerns along those lines? Okay. Well, if you have something else you want to. Well, before we change, is there someone else who wants to continue that discussion going about displacement and what not just in Paramore but anywhere else, because we know the Citrus Bowl is not in Paramore, and people have a lot of concern about what's going on around the Citrus Bowl. There are apartments that are being boarded up, and folks think in certain communities near the Citrus Bowl, or they're going to start coming to eminent domain our property. Is there anyone who has anything to share?
If it's like city soccer, are those residents not able to go to the Orlando City Soccer people, whomever, to be able to get the value of their homes, or is this something that strictly is something that the city has to do? Can the residents not make that attempt to go to them, for the value of their home?
Okay, let me, because I've also done eminent domain myself with the city of Orlando. Actually, it was the State Department of Transportation when they come in and build their roads. I've represented people in eminent domain with the state of Florida, building roads and taking people's property. But part of the process is that there's a negotiation that happens before any litigation, before a complaint is filed. An offer is going to be made. And if you don't like that offer, pretty much your only choice then is to litigate the matter. And hopefully during that litigation, you're able to get a little more, because the cost of litigating all the way to a trial, that has value too. But your question specifically to Juan was, can you get basically more through some other type of avenue? And the answer is really no. You're dealing with one party, and that's the government when they come to take your land or buy your land, however they're going to go about it. The only way to potentially maximize your return is consulting with a lawyer, because there are risks of going to trial with a lawyer and not getting, I think, 75% of the initial offer, because you can go to trial trying to get more, but if you don't get a certain amount, then your attorney's fees are not going to be paid for. One of the beauties of eminent domain is that the law requires if the government's going to take your property, your attorney's fees are going to be paid for. That's why you can always find a free eminent domain attorney. We love those. those type of cases, because we're free. But if you approach it wrong, your lawyer approaches it wrong, you end up getting potentially less than what was originally offered, then you'll get what was offered, but then you got to pay your attorney potentially, $20,000, $30,000 of what you were offered, because you probably shouldn't have litigated it all the way to the end. Hope that kind of answers your question. Okay. So we're continuing the discussion about displacement issues in Paramore. I heard, see Don Miller here. He's got a lot to say about these issues when I do listen to your show. Don, I've heard you talk about these things, about what's going on in Paramore, about the venues and giving to the community versus to maybe special interest dealing with the venues. What's your position on or concerns about these venues and what's going on in Paramore as far as displacement, if any? Or you think everything's going great?
Well, thank you for acknowledging me. I wasn't coming for acknowledgement. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm open to listening to you, what you have to say. I've known you a long time. You don't call me Don Miller in most cases. You call me something else. But that's okay. We have a great relationship. You know that.
Well, this is part of this discussion, as I said before we walked in.
I think there's a really interesting conversation. I study this, and I don't know if most people are studying all the other way. There's a need in that community that has gone unaddressed. Let's be realistic. And it has gone unaddressed simply because the voices in that community have been shut out, shut down, or whatever you want to call it. I think when you look at Orlando, it represents, it's a microcosm of what's happening in American cities all across this country. I just don't work in Orlando, as you know. Regentrification is a problem across this country. In Chicago, Detroit's getting ready to be sold out to the Europeans, as many of us know. How do we change it? Well, we change it by finding people. I think you're a great guy, I think you're a smart guy. But I also think to engage at the level to make a difference, we must be open-minded and, quite frankly, unpartisan. Because everybody got a good idea, Republicans, Democrats, Independents. We should be thinking about the focus on changing the mindset of how white folk see us, because they don't respect our voices much anymore. When they put Jones High School in that community and everybody was like, rah, rah, go Jones, and I'm saying to myself, they didn't invest those dollars because of Paramore. They invested those dollars because of the changing dynamic. White folk going to end up going to Jones at some point. So we must be realistic in our engagement. This neighborhood is changing. If you look at the numbers downtown of non-minorities consistently moving into these high rises, that's going to change the shape of District 5 as we know it within 3 years. So we need an African American that can engage white folks. That ain't going to intimidate them, ain't going to scream and holler, ain't going to call them crackers. We need a black person that can engage non-blacks. The problem with many of us in this community, we've come through the years of Corrine Brown, and I respect Corrine. She came along when we needed Corrine. We needed screaming and hollering. Alcee Hastings, we needed screaming and hollering. We need intellectual dialogue and engagement now. And if we don't get that soon, what we remember as ours won't be ours anymore. So one, I want to know, and I think you can do it, Juan. You know me. You know me for real. We done cussed each other out and hung up and called each other back. But
that was a long time ago.
But I also want to know, engaging this committee. We don't need no white liberals to tell us how to think. We don't, thank you, Mr. White Liberal, we don't need your help right now, okay? We need people who look like us, who care about us, who love us. We don't need the pastors and the preachers and the prognosticators. We need people who understand, how do we keep our people living downtown? Because that's what's getting ready to happen, Juan.
Right.
So what is your plan to make sure that the face of that environment, the face of that community, don't change in the next 4 years?
This is something I said yesterday to the Homeowners Association of Lake Sunset. And I talked about how, kind of to the point of what you're saying, if we don't show an interest in what's happening in Paramore, and despite of how we feel about the venues, change is happening. But the investment in that economic development is intended, and you can see this a little different, but I think it's intended to help us. But if we don't help ourselves to it, then what you're saying may happen, is likely to happen. We have to promote Paramore and the opportunities that are coming
Well, we have to protect Paramore before we promote it.
Okay, protect and promote. I can accept that. Protect and promote Paramore to make it attractive for us to move back in. My brother, many years ago, it might be 15 years ago now, right on Concord Street in Paramore, one of the redeveloped homes, revitalized homes there. At that time, there weren't many places I would even move to in Paramore. But that street on Concord, all those revitalized homes, that was beautiful enough where I would love to move and live there. My brother did it. He worked with OPD at the time. So we have to continue to make sure those type of revitalizations are happening. We've got slum, kind of like slumlord buildings that aren't up to code or unsafe for people. If we're going to tear those down, we do need to replace it with something else that's affordable. Because we know in the current construction market, if we build something, it's going to be hard without some very serious subsidies and things from the HUD and everybody else to make it affordable for the people who were there before. I'm not an expert on that stuff. I know it needs to happen, but I don't know how that sausage is made. So protecting and promoting is what we need to do, because around the soccer stadium, I'm sure you agree, around the soccer stadium, it's going to spring up businesses. The things are going to spring up is people walking down, taking the trolley, the Lynx limo from the Amway Arena to the soccer stadium to the Citrus Bowl for games and special events. That's going to be a real hot corridor where folks know money can be made along that corridor. Businesses are going to show up there. But we have the same opportunity to open up shop there as anyone else does. It's just sometimes in our community, our mentality just that we don't quite, we're a little late with picking up on those opportunities. I'll say that the BBIF, owns a property right there at Paramore and Church. And that wasn't something that just happened. Very long time ago, they saw the opportunity. You can see the vision of what is going to be happening there and purchase that land. And hopefully, in the near future, they'll be able to put their dream into motion. That's to have a commercial complex there that is for our community. Okay, maintaining the character and the face of Paramore, which is a concern. So that's how, I hope I'm addressing your concern.
I want to mention one other thing. I don't mean to come in.
No, please, it's a discussion, unless someone else speaks up.
I had a really good conversation recently with the Lufty family. You may know
Muhammad Lufty.
They are open to...
Yeah, he's deceased with his family.
They are open to selling. They own 327 pieces of property in that community.
Right.
They are open to discussions of selling some of their property. I would encourage you to reach out to African Americans who are seeking to buy property in that community so that we can own something. The problem is we don't own anything. And I remember a few years ago, I had breakfast with Muhammad, and he laughed about the fact that black folk didn't want to buy their own property. So he bought it. And we can't be mad. Because I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to buy something. I want y'all all to know Don Miller is going to buy a whole bunch of stuff in Paramount. And it's going to always be black. But how do we encourage people to move back? We got people like Bernice who got that money. Come on, Bernice, let's come back and buy our own property. It's simple. Come on back. We do have African Americans who can come back to that community. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. White folks going to come back. They're coming with money. We need to change that. Some of these churches, start some funds and buy some of this property. They want to sell it. They don't want it. The old man's gone.
But we have to get them to buy into the vision.
You have to get them, okay? I ain't got to get them.
Right. Well, if I'm elected, that's going to be my point. Yeah, but I think it's also a community effort. It's not something that one person can do. One commissioner.
I'm sorry to call people out.
But I do agree with you, Don, that needs to be an interest. Absolutely, I agree with you on your point. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I live in Malibu, and Commissioner Daisy has come numerous times to help us with this issue. She's called code enforcement. They've come out, they've talk to people about their homes, but we have a lot of absentee homeowners out in our area, and I think that we need stricter laws when they're buying these homes. They're putting just anyone in the home, and then it looks like, excuse the expression, but hell along the homes, because they're not keeping them up. They're just putting people. They're just putting people any place. We have people that are buying homes, putting maybe 2 and 3 families in one home that only has 1 bathroom, 2 rooms. You know, not only that, we need funding for our streets to be paved. We need funding for brighter street lights. So not only downtown, but out west side, we need, further west, we need help. But Commissioner Daisy has done a tremendous job, but she can only do so much. They'll only let her do so much. So now that you're coming aboard, you can do the rest.
You're as optimistic as I am. I appreciate that. Now I remember, and I see your hand up over there. I remember it was during the 10-year Palmer Hardage, where I recall a lot of that neighborhood, a lot of infrastructure being put in, a lot of sidewalks. That might have been about 12 years ago, if you may recall, just a lot of infrastructure and development going in there. And maybe about 6 years ago, I had a land development company with a few guys. Paul was one of them, and we built our first affordable home in Malibu Groves. It was our first kind of experiment at developing affordable homes. And that was a good opportunity for us because that was right after, a couple of years after some of the infrastructure came in, and it was a much nicer community. But obviously, like you said, it still has a long way to go as far as the infrastructure, sidewalks, pavement, because a lot of those roads were dirt roads, 15 years ago. That close in the city is dirt roads, because I have friends who went to Jones High, go see them. It's like, where in the world, are we? In a third world country in the middle of the city with dirt roads. But the first part of your question, I want to address that, because I don't really have the answer on the first part. The second part, yes, allocation of resources to get it done. I know we can do that and continue doing that kind of work as far as with the streets. But the first part, I don't know if I necessarily have the answer. So I'm looking forward to engaging this discussion when you shared that when someone comes in, absent a landlord, people come in, buy the property, rent it out, and it pretty much just goes to hell in the handbasket. So we call code enforcement does some things that may not be as effective or efficient, but they do get out there and let some homeowners know and then lien their property up. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I've sued the city of Orlando code enforcement before. I think on more than one occasion, I believe. I'm very familiar with what they do and what they can do. But I'm not sure when you have neighbors who just don't take care, or tenants who are renting property, don't take care of their property, but it doesn't get to the point of a code enforcement issue, what we can do. I'm here to...
The Orlando Police Department's in the beginning stages of doing crime-free multi-housing. They already do it with the apartment complex, but now they're finding out through research with Jacksonville that they are able to go into these homeowners, absentee homeowners that are renting them out, especially under Section 8. You have to abide by certain rules and regulations, and these individuals are not doing that. So we're trying to work with Section 8, and we're trying to come up with a plausible plan so that just as when you build a new apartment complex, you have to have certain rules about who you can let in, criminal backgrounds and things of that nature, and you have to follow guidelines while you're living there. That should be also, we're trying to make that applicable to those individual homeowners, because like she was saying, that one house can take down 2 streets.
I can give you an example. If you want to go to the HUD HOC reference guide, when you talk about HUD and Section 8, that's kind of out of our league. The federal government has guidelines and regulations I'm in the housing business, Juan, as you know. That's a really tricky, slippery slope. We can't tell people who to rent to. You have a homeowners association, then you can come together and have a meeting and probably change some of the things that's in your bylaws. But when you start to deal with the federal government and HUD and the HUD guidelines, Juan can't do that. And I think this is why we should be engaged.
Right.
He can't do that. We can ask him that question, but you can write to the regional director for HUD in this region, is Ed Jennings. He's based out of Atlanta. He knows this area very well. You know that.
Yeah.
And that's different. So if you have HUD houses in your community, that goes beyond the city of Orlando, and it definitely goes beyond the state of Florida. HUD writes their own, and that's a legislative conversation again, because HUD does what they do. And so unfortunately, ma'am, if it's a HUD house, it's a whole bunch of things you gotta jump through to make that go away. I understand it gets really terrible, but Juan can't do that. And Juan, you have to tell people what you can't do, man. I know
that's why I let it off. I don't know the answer. I don't know. Please share. Kevin shared something.
Kevin, there's no answer. You know that.
Ms. Bradley.
All right. Since we're talking about HUD, and I'm going to talk about Fannie Mae and the Yukons that own.
Yeah.
You said District 5, their houses, their apartments on both sides.
Yeah.
District 5 runs right through the area that Clear Lake, Punch Manor, and Lake Sunset.
Talk about the corner of
and in
Morrison
the
Boulevard
middle
and
of Orange Center, we've got District 6.
Right.
And that's where those apartments are.
Right.
Fannie Mae owns the ones on the right. There's nothing city can do about them. Daisy LYNUM, we spoke with Commissioner Daisy LYNUM, we've spoken with Mike Rhodes, Code Enforcement. There is nothing that we can do, and I agree with you, sir. Fannie Mae has those. The only thing we can do is deal with apartments on the south side of Orange Center Boulevard, which still is in litigation because Mr. Yukon, who owns them, flees every time there's an opportunity to ante up and say, I'm going to fix the apartments. 2 years ago, our neighborhood, Clear Lake Cove, Lake Sunset, we all went to city council, we talked to them, that was 2 years. He was going, Mr. Yukon, the owner, was going to fix them in, I think it was May or June. May or June came, Mike Rhodes called and said that he foreclosed on. So we are stuck with those. I know it's not your district, but if you would continue to work with us to help us resolve those apartments, demolish, renovate, mixed income use, we need something done. Because Orange Center Boulevard is the gateway that leads to Washington Shores, where all the people who lived in Orlando before I came to Orlando in '61, all blacks live all over down on South Street. So I was told blacks own properties in Paramount. Yes. And that's where they lived, and it was upscale from what I was told. Yes. Now it's downscale. And we've got to come back to Paramount and move in to where we need to go. Because they're pushing us further and further back. I don't know where those people were displaced to that had to move. Now here we're faced with life, vagrancy, and boarded up issues. We try to maintain on both sides of Orange Center Boulevard. And the Citrus Bowl is coming. I went to the meeting where Commissioner LYNUM had the workers from the Citrus Bowl there. I spoke with one gentleman because she had a Q&A after with the people who were working there. And I spoke to one person, one developer. He didn't even know it was a south side of Paramount. I mean, of Camp Avenue. I said, you're working at the Citrus Bowl. Citrus Bowl goes all the way to Gore Street. Gore Street, he didn't know. He had never been beyond the 408. So we've got to educate those workers, the people who are doing the Citrus Bowl, and when they come and tell us that they're gonna give us a little coat of paint to go on the houses in, I don't know, they say around the Citrus Bowl. We're not around, but we're to the south of them. And we need your support to keep things moving so that we can get some of those dollars that are being spent at the Citrus Bowl. And that's my concern.
Well, you know, my plan for this district is if there's going to be money allocated to get more than other districts for my district. So that's always going to be my plan. But to speak on those apartments right there on Orange Center in Tampa, actually the same owner has on the corner of Mercy Drive and that's the same issue. Those are in litigation together. So we do have a substantial part of that also in District 5. And this is what I understand about it. You know, the city has probably over $2 million in liens on those properties, right? But because of the federal status of Fannie Mae and how special it is with that federal status, the city, Fannie Mae can just say, when they sell the property or do whatever they're going to do with property, say the city liens don't exist. So the city will have no say or no leverage in potentially what happens with that property. But what the city of Orlando is doing, what they're part of in this litigation, is they're participating in the litigation by trying to ask that federal judge to allow them to maintain their liens or to at least listen to what the city has to say about what should happen with that property, or should say the conditions, if there's going to be a sale of that property, put conditions on it. Because I'll say that your city leaders hear the community over there. No one in that community wants those apartments to return to what they were before. But a likely outcome is that they will just throw some paint on it, bring it back up to code, and open it back up just the way it was before. And unfortunately, there'll be nothing the city can do about it under that type of scenario. So that's why the city is fighting to maintain those liens, to allow the judge to say, hey, we understand Fannie Mac has this authority to just kick away our liens, but judge, we need these liens to stay so that we can make sure that what happens here is in the interest of the community. So that's part of how the city is trying to leverage itself into that litigation. So they are trying to protect the residents, understand the issues, but they don't want it to be the same way. But what's likely going to come, let's say that land is sold and new people come in and want to redevelop it. We know they want to redevelop it. The city, they still have to go to the city for permits, variances, and all those types of things. At that point, if that happens, then the city would have a lot of say in what can be built. So that's one outcome. Probably unlikely, but probably the best outcome, which is very unlikely, is that the city has their liens, the liens stay, and they're able to foreclose on those liens, which likely is not going to happen. So I'm hopeful that with the property on Mercy Drive, as well as right there on Orange Center Boulevard, that the judge listens to what the city says and the reasons the city is given as far as the public interest behind those liens and protect that area and what happens in the future. Hopefully they're successful with that. But we only have right now, the city only has so much leverage there that they're trying to protect.
We just want you to still become aware of what's going on.
TJWS Radio Network, featuring Jimmy Drop D. Williams and the Jimmy Williams Show.
Move on the music, get down. TJWS Radio, always the best in town. Keep on listening, keep on listening. Got to keep on listening, keep on listening.
The best in news, talk, and music. Only on TJWS Radio.
News, talk, and music, get down. TJWS Radio, always the best in town.
Give it to them. Give it to them.
If you beep out, your car getting tricked out, visit Auto Sound Factory, where they provide car stereos, car security, custom installation, auto detailing, neon ground glow, custom speaker enclosure, computer design system, and auto accessories. You can visit them at 1234 29th Street, Orlando, Florida 32805, and the phone number is 407-246-0585. Auto Sound Factory. If you leave out your car getting tricked out, visit Auto Sound Factory.
Empire Graphics and Printing, the #1 graphics and printing company in Florida. Club flyers, mixtape covers, posters, they do it all. Reach them at 407-404-0509.
Hollywood Beauty Academy. Invest in your future. Start a profitable career in the beauty field. For a low tuition, you can become a nail tech, a skincare technician, a cosmetologist, or makeup artist, or learn eyelashing extension. Earn good money. The tuition is affordable for everyone. We can install payments to fit your budget and flexible schedules to fit your own schedule. Call us at 407-292-6727 or come in and visit us at 6112 Silver Star Road, Orlando, Florida 32808. We are open from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Hollywood Beauty Academy. Invest in your future.
Hello world, this is your hostess that is the mostest, Miss Ovachi, coming to tell you about an event we have coming up March 22nd at the Caribbean Hut. This event is produced by and presented by TJWS Radio and Ovachi Enterprises. Again, it will take place at the Caribbean Hut, 2141 West Colonial Drive, Orlando, Florida 32808. The entrance is only $5, so don't meet me there, beat me there. Again, this event is an entertainment explosion, an explosion of entertainment. Taking place March 22nd, presented by TJWS Radio and Ovachi Enterprises. See you there.
Has your home or property been damaged by any of the recent storms, such as water damage or damage from lightning? Then you may need a lawyer. Has your home been damaged due to an accident where items were dropped, cracked your tile floor, or caused other damage to your tile flooring? Then you may need a lawyer. Has your business been burglarized and the insurance company refused to pay, to replace the stolen items, or otherwise deny your claim? You may need a lawyer. Has your insurance company denied your long or short-term disability claim? You may need a lawyer. Has your home been damaged due to sinkhole activity, or has your home been damaged due to a fire or smoke loss? Has the insurance company denied your claim or offered an amount insufficient to make the necessary repairs? You may need a lawyer. If you need a lawyer, call Anthony Smith Law at 1-866-520-4529. At Anthony Smith Law, they represent clients who have disputes with their own insurance company. If your insurance company denies your claim, call Anthony Smith Law. Their consultation is free, and they never get paid unless you do. Remember, call 1-866-520-4529 to discuss your insurance rights. Anthony Smith Law offices, located in Orlando.
TJWS Radio Network, featuring Jimmy Drop D. Williams and the Jimmy Williams Show.
News, talk, and music, get down. TJWS Radio, always the best in town. You keep on listening, keep on listening. Got to keep on listening, keep on listening.
The best in news, talk, and music. Only on TJWS Radio.
News, talk, and music, get down. TJWS Radio.